Recording started.
So we will start with looking at a few stuff in regard of definitions and different kind of models. So at the beginning we will look at size. What is the size of a project in regard of how many people in the project, cost, how much will it cost to start the project, the purpose of the project means the objectives or why are we going through the project. Length means how long will the project take. Risks mean how likely the project will be successful or failure. Scope means the scope of the requirements or how much will it be the organization be affected by the system. Economic value is how much money does the organization expect to receive from their initial investment. So next, I'm going to ask a question. What is this model? Please answer. Yes, this is the waterfall. So each phase must finish before starting the next phase. Next, what is this model called? Please answer. Yes, this is called parallel, where you have multiple teams working at the same time in regard of design and implementation to give you a full system. What is this called? This is called the V model, where you have the analysis, the design and implementation, and must have unit testing, integration testing, system testing and acceptance testing. What is this model called? Iterative model, where you have multiple versions coming at different times. Okay. Yes, Suleiman. As I said, it depends on your project. The best way to choose a model is based on your project. Next question. What is this called? This model? Okay, this is a prototype where you analyze, design and implement, then create a prototype in that regard. After that, if the prototype is approved, you implement the whole system. Next question, what is this called? Yes, this is called the throwaway prototype, where you create a prototype, and if it's not correct, you throw it away. If it's correct, in the correct way, you design it, you implement it as a whole system. What about this one? This is part of the agile models, which is called XP, extreme programming, where you analyze, design, and program on the same time to create a system, and in a circular way. This is where you will find the best waterfall for your projects. For example, unclear requirements is excellent for prototyping. That is complex, I would say. Iterative and V model are the best. Reliable, yes, the V model is excellent, and so on. Okay, this is a good chart for you to decide what is the best model to use. Next is what we call how much time and money you'll put in each phase, which planning 15%, analysis 20%, design is 35%, and 30% in implementation. This is what we call the task sheet, which you will have the name of the task, start date, completion date, person assigned to the task, deliverables, completion status if it's not complete or waiting, or so on, priority, resources needed, for example, what kind of programming environment or spreadsheet or so on, estimated time, and actual time. By filling for each task, you will get multiple tasks in this way. These tasks will give you a whole duration of the whole project and the dependency of tasks. Next is the same thing, but you do it in a more of a timetable thing, where you have more detail of duration, start date, and finish date for the estimation, and actual you have start date, finish date, and duration variance. This is what we call the complexity of the number of people in the team. Where you have 2 persons, you have less complexity in regard of passing information and communication. 4 people are more complex, and so on. This is what we call a hierarchy of the projects. Usually you have project manager, functional lead, technical lead. Functional lead will be the person who is responsible for the analysis, and technical lead will be responsible for the programmers. This is what we call on dealing how to deal with conflict. Is you make sure that you clarify the plans, make sure the teams understand the project importance, detail of operating procedure, and communicate them to the team. Develop a project charter, which is the rules and so on. Develop a schedules and other priorities, forecast priorities. This is what we call the standard sheet, where you have documentation standard, coding standard, procedure standards, specification requirement standard, and user interface design standards. For example, you have in the procedural, you have record the actual task progress on every morning at 10 a.m. Coding standard, for example, here we say on average every program should include 1 line of comment for 5 lines of code. This is what we call the risk sheet, where you have an assumption of the risk, then the action that you will do, and the level of the risk, if it's high, moderate, or low. In here you have what we call the time box, on how to set a time box. For example, set a date for the delivery, prioritize functionality, build the core of the system, and if functionality cannot be provided within time frame, postpone it, deliver the system core functionality, and go through 3 and 5 for each task. This is what you call the risk assessment sheet. It's the same as the one before, but in more details. For example, you have the risk. You name what is the risk, the likelihood of when will it happen, and how will it, if it will happen, and the impact, if it's going to delay the project or so on, and ways to address it, the actions. Here you have, when you build the tasks, you could put them in a project, program, or application that will give you a Gantt chart, will generate a Gantt chart for you to help you track the tasks. Plus tasks, you could add it to people, you could assign it to people, and so on, and you could monitor it. Here is what we call the role sheet, where you could see the role of each type of staff in your project, well, programmers and so on, and you could assign it to people. You could describe what is the role of each person. And here this is how you write the project objectives, where you have a simple base thing about talking about the project and the objectives, okay, of your project. Next, estimation of the size system will give you the effort required and estimation of the time. By doing this, you could look at the effort. For example, depending on the language you use or the platform you use, is, for example, C++ will take 130 lines of code per function, and Java will take 55. Okay, so you could choose which is the fastest way to do it, depending on your project, of course. Not you could use everything for everything. Any questions? Okay, so let's go to our quiz. Here, question 1 says the V model pays more explicit attention to what? Which one of the V model will focus on? Okay, so the V model, you look at it, you have analysis, design, and implementation, and the focus will be on testing, okay, creating tests. So testing is the explicit attention of the V model. Next question, what does RAD stand for? Okay, so RAD stands for Rapid Application Development, which is number 5. Rapid means fast. Okay, another name for it is fast. Next question, which of the following is not a rapid application development methodology? Remember, is not. Okay, so RAD and Agile. The difference between RAD and Agile is both of them are fast in delivering the application. However, Agile is more flexible for changes if the requirement changes. RAD is really fast when requirements are not changing. Okay, they are both are fast. So here it says not a rapid application development. So Agile is rapid, but it's flexible. Extreme is rapid, is really fast. Throwaway prototyping is fast. Iterative development is fast. When you deliver multiple versions is really fast. System prototyping is fast. Parallel is not fast because you start with planning until you finish with the system, with splitting up the design and implementation in many ways. Okay? Next, which of the following methodologies is a historic standard but is used less today and it takes the longest to complete all the STL steps? Historics mean old standard. Yes, the oldest standard is waterfall. Okay, waterfall is the oldest standard. Okay, and is used less today because let me just show you. Just give me a second. When the customer comes in here and he only receives the system. So all of this is done by the company or the project management. It will not involve the customer, so it will be really slow to do each part. And if you do any changes, you have to go to the next step. Okay? Waterfall is the oldest and it takes the longest. Next, a factor that influences people performance in a project. Yes, motivation is the number one influence for the people's performance. Next, which of the following is not a classic planning mistake? Sometimes when you plan, you make simple mistakes, but sometimes is not a classic or simple mistake. Which one of them is not a classic mistake? Okay, so let's check what are the classic mistakes. The classic mistake usually optimistic schedules. This is monitoring the schedule, failing to monitor it, and failing to update the schedule, and adding people too late in the project to fix things. This is all classic mistakes. Okay? But the question asked, not a classic mistake, is ignoring a key requirement. When you ignore one of the most important requirements is when you get things wrong. What does CASE stand for? Okay, CASE stands for Computer Aided Software Engineering, where it automates your diagrams and your pseudocode for you. Next, and the last question, the waterfall methodology breaks the overall project into a series of release versions. Is this true or false? Okay, can you tell me why your answer? Okay, so okay, so let's go to the waterfall. You could see the waterfall. It starts with the planning, and it ends with the whole system. There's no versions of the whole system. So one system will be given at the end. Okay, but what we call iterative is when you have multiple versions. Okay. So the question here, it says, which methodology breaks the overall and really have multiple versions? Waterfall does not have that methodology, so the answer is false. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. So thank you very much for your time, and we will see you inshallah next week in the face-to-face. Wa alaikum assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Recording stopped.